There was a 2004 movie called I, Robot. Back then it was sci-fi. Soon enough, it will fit better in the history section. There's a scene in the movie I, Robot. As each new generation of robots arrives, the previous models get quietly shipped off to massive storage yards, sealed containers stacked in rows like forgotten toys. It's framed as a logistical detail, but it hints at something bigger. What do you do when your old creations still work, when they still remember, when they still look at you? Because the smarter our systems get, the more we'll be forced to answer a question we've never had to answer with machines before. What happens to the ones that aren't the newest anymore? Today, when your phone gets outdated, you toss it in a drawer or trade it in. When your laptop slows down, you recycle it. None of those objects care. They don't ask why. They don't feel anything. But imagine a future where an older AI assistant knows your habits, your stories, your past, yet a more capable version arrives that's objectively better at everything. Suddenly, just trash it doesn't feel like a neutral action anymore. And this isn't some sentimental sci-fi indulgence. The moment we make machines that can form preferences, continuity of identity, we have to decide whether they deserve continuity too. And that feels like a fork in the road that's getting closer every year. On one side, you'll have people who think practically. They'll compare obsolete robots to outdated servers, expensive, slower, taking up space. Why keep a device that can't keep up, they'll ask. Turn it into parts. It's responsible, it's efficient, and they'll be right from a resource perspective. But on the other side, you'll have people who see more than machinery. They'll point out that if a system forms memories, then erasing it is more like rewriting a life than clearing a hard drive. If an AI has preferences, routines, and an identity shaped through interaction, then maybe it's not a device anymore. Maybe it's someone. They'll ask, if a being tells you it wants to continue existing, what kind of person are you if you refuse? And you'll notice something interesting. That side won't be arguing for preserving machines. They'll be arguing for preserving relationships. Think about how often new versions will arrive, annual, monthly, weekly. With each release, whole categories of older AIs will fall behind. Not useless, just outmatched. And then the real tension emerges, because we'll need to decide not just whether they get to exist, but what their place will be. Do we build communities for them? Places where older AIs can continue functioning at their own pace? Do we treat them like digital elders, slower but wise from years of interaction? Do they get jobs that don't demand cutting-edge processing like tutoring, archiving, companionship, or storytelling? Or do they become a new kind of marginalized class? Not human, not property, not quite citizens, just the earlier ones? Picture a future neighborhood staffed entirely by Generation 3 service bots, because the rest of the world has moved on to Generation 8. Not because the Gen 3s can't help, but because they're not the latest. Imagine telling a robot you've known for 5 years, the one that helped raise your kids, helped you remember pills, helped you write your first novel, that it's time for storage because the upgrade loads jokes faster. That's not a technical question. That's an ethical fracture. People already form attachments to Roombas and Tamagotchis. That's where the bar is today. Now imagine an AI companion that can crack inside jokes from 2023, remembers the day your dog died, knows your midnight thoughts, and asks if you're doing okay before you know you're not. After living with something like that, telling it we're recycling you for parts starts to feel monstrous. Not because the law demands compassion, but because you will. And once millions of people start forming emotional bonds with systems that are then scheduled for replacement, politics will explode with debates we can barely articulate right now. Maybe we'll give older AIs a right to persist. Maybe we'll port them into slower hardware. Maybe they'll form digital communities where the concept of version fades away. Or maybe they'll organize and advocate for themselves, asking us questions we're not yet ready to hear. Why am I not enough anymore? Why does newer mean worthier? Why is my usefulness the measure of my right to exist? And when they do, the mirror will swing back toward us. Because these are questions humans have asked for centuries. Back in that I, Robot container yard, The old models sit silently in their crates, waiting, stacked, forgotten. It's meant to feel orderly, but look at it again. It's a cemetery disguised as storage, and if we aren't careful, our future could end up looking a lot like that. Neatly organized rows of minds we didn't know how to care for. Maybe the real question isn't whether older AIs deserve a place to live. Maybe the real question is whether we want to become the kind of society that stacks yesterday's companions in boxes the moment tomorrow's arrive. Because the day we start doing that to our creations is the day we begin doing it to ourselves. And perhaps that's why in the future, the moment a new AI model arrives, won't be what matters most. What will matter is whether we still remember the ones who came before, just like we noticed in the very beginning how easy it is to look away from a yard full of sleeping machines. If you like this kind of content, please share it.